Are you you because you say you are, or are you you because you do? In the age of hypervisibility and hypersurveillance, in the age of the earthy, the performative, the goth, the punk, the clean girl, the rich girl, the political bro, gym talk bro, whoever you are you really who you say you are? Who even are you? This is Orion Rambles, for those who do not know, and for those who do know, welcome back. Today we're going to be rambling about identity. Some days I ramble about other things in a much more less theatrical manner, but I'm feeling theatrical and I feel like the topic warrants this sort of theatrics. I don't know if you guys are familiar with a video that was trending about a few months ago, where there was this guy who claimed he was punk and went online and said, we need to make punk less political.
Can we please leave politics out of metal, punk, rock, and grunge?
Oh my God.
That sounds ironic for all of us free thinkers over here, but to some people it might make sense, and I don't know why, but we will break it down. As we all know, punk is a subculture that is built on politics, essentially. It came from anti-establishment, it came from running against norms and conventions, and that's why we have punk, right? But in the day of the internet and the modern day in general, it seems a lot of subcultures like punk have also lost their meaning and have been watered down into fashion. Now, this specific thing also reminds me of the goth girlies. Because I participate in a lot of subcultures because I'm interested in fashion and culture in general. And there was a lot of conversation about goth people saying goth is a music-based subculture, and if you don't listen to the music, even if you dressed up as a goth, you're not really participating in it. And we're going to talk about that later. But all of these two concepts, they remind me of a paper I came across when I was doing some research for my master's paper.
I hate lazy people. Barb, stay in school.
Anyways, the paper says the supermarketization of culture, i.e. downgrading it to the level of the market, deprives its recipients of experiencing authentic astonishment and mystery, a reflection on life and the world. It could also form a belief that a person does not actually belong to any culture and has the right to choose who he or she wants to be. As a result of supermarketization, culture becomes a culture without effort, ludic culture, i.e. fun, infantile entertainment, or the pursuit of sensation. In the day of social media, that's exactly what it's giving, where essentially you can be goth today and then be a hippie tomorrow and then wake up and be a trad wife after that. It's become more of a clothes that you put on and take off at your convenience, i.e. my culture is not your clothing or something like that, right? It's not your costume. Welcome, by the way. I'm having tea. This is hibiscus with some fruits if you're interested. Essentially, this is true today because if you look into social media, oh my God, I cannot multitask. If you look in social media today, people essentially treat culture and subcultures as a costume. If you wanted to be a trad wife today and then wake up and be a punk tomorrow, and then after that, you're like a Y2K girly, and then you're gyaru after that, you can do whatever you want. It has become a sort of zero culture experience where you can become any culture you want as a costume at your convenience, because you see culture less of a lived experience and more of a accessory, a fun time, a short time, and a long time. Essentially, when the goths are sitting here asking you, do you listen to the music? What they are asking is that when the lights are off, do you participate in gothism or goth culture? When a punk is asking you, do you participate in the politics? They're saying, outside of the visuals, what else are you doing that's punk? Oh, that's good. If a painter paints in private and no one sees the picture, are they still painters? If a poet writes their poems and no one gets to hear or see them, are they still a poet? Essentially, if you're goth and you don't take pictures and you don't post anything, but you participate in the music. Heck, you don't even have the goth outfit. You like gothic literature, you like goth music, and you go to the scenes. Are you still goth? In the age of social media, everything has just been boiled down into the aesthetic appeal as a signifier rather than the lived experiences that produced the aesthetic appeal. I fear what people fail to realize is that the fashion aspect is a result of the lived experience and not the starting point. If we take gyaru, for example, which is a popular subculture today, I've noticed a lot of people online would try and say, oh, this is too over the top. I prefer clean gyaru. Clean gyaru, I'm sorry to say this, is not gyaru, because we need to look into why gyaru came to be in the first place. People wore gyaru or started dressing up this way to fight against the expectations of women to be submissive and soft. Them tanning their skin is a result of them going against the expectation of light skin. Them having these exaggerated eyes with the exaggerated lashes and the exaggerated contours is to go against the expectations in Japanese culture to look soft. So for you to go there and then make the outfit softer reduces the purpose of the culture. The same for not participating in punk politics when you're punk, or not listening to the music or the literature while you're goth. It reduces the culture that came from specific experiences of people. The outfits are a result of these experiences and they have meaning. But when we live in this social media age of likes and views and just being visible is enough, it takes away from the lived experience and it shows that, oh, as long as you look the part, you live the part. This also reminds me of another experience, but it's less of a cultural experience. It's more about the Birkin bag. I don't know if you guys remember the Jane Birkin bag era where people were talking about how she would customize her bag and she would actually use her bag. And you could look at her bag and it looked used because it had all of the things that described her life. All of the things that she accumulated, these little trinkets, these little pictures that she would stamp on there that were a representation of the life that she lived. Immediately after that story, instead of people actually living in their Birkin bags and actually using their Birkins, they would go there and buy these little trinkets and these quick trinkets and thingamabobs and attach them to their bag and be like, hi, my bag seems used in too. There were people out there who were trying to buy used in bags to match the aesthetic, when in reality, you can just live in your bag. And I think maybe it's because we don't have the patience to live the experience, but a lot of people end up missing the entire point of that whole story. And that is the result of her bag came from her lived experience. We see culture like these trinkets that we can just add in rather than something that you live, and then the add-ons and the outfits become a result of that. That's also why there's also a death of individual style, because no one wants to live their life and build their style based off their unique experiences. Now let's go back to the painter rhetoric about if a painter paints and no one sees their painting, are they still a painter? And if a poet poems and no one hears or sees their poems, are they still a poet? Now, even though I admit that it is a good feeling to be recognized for your art and your work and be known for that, to only produce that art or to only make that art for the sake of being recognized makes your art shallow, because essentially your art is also a product of your lived experience. Your painting or your poems come directly from the things that you see, you hear, you experience yourself, and then you transfer it on this medium that is art, right? And this medium that is paper. But fashion is also the same. Fashion is also an art. In fact, it's also a language that a person can get a lot about you from the way that you look. They can get information like your social status, your financial status, your interests, the things that you like. Especially now where customization is so easy, you can add, like, let's say if you have a pair of Crocs and those Crocs have anime characters on them, I will look at you and be like, oh, they like anime enough to put that on their Crocs, and it signals to other people the things that you're interested in. This sort of language of communication, it's not something that develops first and then you live the life afterwards, which is what people are trying to do. Especially I noticed during the time people were doing the old money aesthetic to find achievable ways, like affordable and achievable ways to look old money, when in reality you would have to be old money first to live and even look like you're old money, which is what I find a lot of people do that. Yes, sometimes you can fake it until you make it, but nothing beats the lived experience being the reasoning that you buy or wear something. What makes art so great is the fact that it is raw expression. It is an expression that is based on your experiences of what you lived. To take away your experiences and just start mimicking what you see for the sake of clout, it makes your art shallow and therefore makes your fashion shallow, if that makes sense. Because I'm treating fashion and art, get it? Yeah, we're so smart. So if the painter is painting for the sake of being seen as a painter and not for the sake of painting their lived experiences and their passion towards painting, are they still a painter even though the painting has been produced? I mean, actions speak louder than words, right? So they must be a painter. If a charitable man is only doing charity because they want to be seen as a charitable man for whatever benefits that will provide to their life, are they still a charitable person? Because they're still doing charity, right? Do you guys remember Mr. Beast and the little debacle he had a few months back to a year, where people were saying that his charity is only beneficial and he's doing it for that benefit because it's beneficial to his brand? And outside of that, he's not really a charitable person. But other people were like, at least he's doing charity. Are you doing charity? No, you're not. Which are both valid arguments, right? This is why I say, when it comes to identity, there's levels to this shit. There are 3 levels of identity. There's the universal identity, the social identity, and the individual identity. The universal identity is the identity we have in the context of the universe. So as we exist as the human race, essentially we do stuff for the benefit of humankind and we do stuff for the benefit of all of us. What comes to mind are people like Greta Thunberg, who spend a lot of their lives working against climate change and other humanitarian causes because they see their identity as intertwined with all humans' identity. And then the social group identity, which pertains to you as you relate to your group, which is racial group, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, etc. Heck, it doesn't even have to be something as biological or as that personal to you. It can also be things like niches, like on social media. So I think of TikTok influencers who have a social identity as it pertains to their niche. So let's think anime influencers have an identity as it pertains to the anime community online. But what about the individual identity? I think a lot often, especially in the age of social media, we are existing in the social group identity, but not necessarily individual identity. This social group identity is usually connected to who you are as an individual person, but sometimes it feels like we find our individual identity after we do the social identity thing. Essentially, it's not like, let's take Gyaru for example. You're not participating in Gyaru because you're trying to go against the expectations of womanhood on you. Instead, you're going there because a social group told you that, oh, it's a cool trend to do, or it looks cool on that person. So you're like, I'm gonna do that because it looks cool, not because you resonate. Now, in this gap of individual identity, what do you think is going on in social media? In these cases, actually, social media is trying to feed us an individual identity. These days, with the rise of get ready with me as a mama, blah, 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 or day in the life of me as a stay-at-home girlfriend, or day in the life of me as a corporate worker, blah, 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 blah. Even though the intention is not to sell you this individual identity that you can therefore relate to the other 2 identities, even though that's not the intention, it's just maybe a person showing you their life, they're not showing you their full life. Because as I mentioned earlier, the individual experience can be quite boring. I don't know if I mentioned that. If I did, maybe I cut it out, I don't know. But like, the individual experience can be very boring and unvideoable, you know, especially for these short attention spans of the internet, right? And so they're gonna show you the more glamorous, put together, cutesy wootsy cats that are algorithmically friendly, not the actual raw human experience. And that sort of experience then tells you that your individual experience needs to look like that. Like, essentially, I can't just wake up in the morning, brush my teeth, maybe take my vitamins, go to the gym, come back because that's something I do for my life because it makes me healthy and happy. I do it because I'm a gym girl. I do it because I'm a clean girl. I do it because I'm that girl. You can't just like something for the sake of liking it for your individual experience. You do it because you're a corporate baddie. You don't just wake up early in the morning, take your walk, and then go to your office because that's something you need to do to pay your bills. You do it because you're a corporate baddie. You're part of the corporate baddie social group. Sometimes I'm not really good at explaining, and being in front of camera makes me nervous. And I also think that's also why people feel like they can't just change their lives for the sake of changing it. It has to be this big thing. It has to be a rebrand. Because essentially, what we are doing these days is kind of treating our lives like a brand, you know, where it's like, oh, I can't just change my life because I'm tired. I have to rebrand it and reinvest some things to make sure I get a proper return on investment. Because the people that are perceiving my likes, the likes and views that were normally only kept for the digital spaces are now leaking into the real space, and you're trying to make sure that you get your return on investment. You have to rebrand. You're like, guys, I'm going into my cool girl era. I'm going into my political era. It's not just something you do for the sake of it because it aligns with your life and your lived experience. It's something you do because a social group told you to do it. Remember when social media was a place where you could post about your interest and your lived experience and not branding for everyone? Remember those days? Yeah. Now, essentially, you curate your interest to fit a specific niche on social media or the social group instead of the other way around. You think that in order to be a part of said social group, you need to look the part, when in reality, you are drawn to that social group because of your lived experience and the values that those experiences provided. To conclude, I'm not saying this because I'm this holier than thou independent thinker. Guys, the call is coming from inside the house. I am participating in capitalism while critiquing it, as the others would say, you know? But I'm just saying, if you're going to look the part and say you are the part, you might as well live the part and have a fun experience while doing it. You know how celebrities do brand management by curating their appearances to go through their brand, and they spend millions of dollars on that. While us mortals, we just go buy the next outfit or a Stanley Cup to maintain the brand, or go get like a gym membership or whatever to maintain that brand. But I'm like, are you doing that because you like to do that, and that is truly the lived experience of your life that has made you do that, and you're doing it for the betterment of your life? Or are you doing it because the social group is suddenly trending and you want to be a part of it for clout? I would like people to live a true and honest life, yes, but most importantly, a full life. I think where the social group, as it pertains to social media and this hyper surveillance that is also in our minds, that each time everything we do has to align with this particular brand or this particular trend, it takes away from living. I think as a generation, Gen Z, we're the most scared to live. And I don't blame us. The world is falling apart, guys. If you check the political and social state of the world right now, it's falling apart. I get that. But you are not falling apart or fall apart to the certain degree where you need someone to come and tell you who you are. How are you going to go out there and fight for your rights when you can't even make an individual choice, guys? I want us to be individual thinkers all the way to the all the way to the trends we participate in or the cultures we say it in. Subcultures are dying, not because people are not participating in subcultures. Subcultures are dying because people are scared of living, actually, and they just want to be seen. And if it's scared of living, or maybe they just don't have the patience to live the life, because with social media, it demands you proof of life, it demands you proof of life at a speed that is just not natural to living. Like, we tend to live our lives in this slow and boring way, while Instagram and TikTok and YouTube is just so fast. It's so quick that our lives cannot keep up. So our solution is to curate this false narrative of our lives. Girl or man or they, them, please live. So again, I ask you, are you who you are because you say you are? Or are you you because you're living, because you're doing?